SQL is a structured query language, and basically this SQL is a specialized programming language that will help us to manage and manipulate relational databases. And it also has a way to interact with the database that allows you to query, insert, update, delete, manage, add, and analyze a different kind of a data set in our SQL. SQL is a powerful tool for data analysis and is widely used for extracting valuable insight from database. In this course, we will discuss about different concepts of the SQL, like selecting all the data that is in our table, selecting some specific columns, selecting top rows, and in from statement we discuss about how we select different kind of tables that is in our data set, and how we use different kind of filters by using the where statement. They either be a greater than, less than sign, equal to sign, and either be discussing about a different condition, different column, and a different condition in a single column. And we also discuss about the joins, either be inner join, outer join, right join, left join, and how we select different kind of columns in the select statement, and much more in the join statement. And we also discuss about the group by statement, like how we group or order database based on some specific categories, and how we discuss about the order by statement, like ordering our data in based on either descending or ascending order, and also about discuss about case statements, and also discuss about how we identify and delete the null values, and how we identify and delete the duplicate values, and how we split our column into two different columns, and how we can combine the two columns into a single column, and how we extract the age, year, month, how we extract age, year, month, and day from our date column, and how we extract our age from our date of birth column, and how we can update the new columns in our data set, and how we can update by data in our existing columns, and much more we discuss in this course. And in this course we have total of 3 data set in which we are working. The first one is the employee ID, in which there are total 7 columns and total of 20 rows. And second data set is a department data set, in which there are total 20 rows and 2 columns. And third one is the order data set, in which there are total 4 columns and 24 rows. And out of these 24 rows, 2 rows are including the null values, and 2 rows are including duplicate values. So these null value and duplicate values help us in our analysis for identifying and deleting null and duplicate value. There is also one more thing, that in our employee ID column, we have a employee ID which is a little bit typo error in our column name of employee ID. This is just one thing that I wanted to discuss before our analysis start. So let's start our learning. Now I'm creating a new database, and I'm giving it a name into a SQL practice file. And now I'm going to, as here you can see, we have our database is created. Now I'm going to our task and then import flat files, and I'm uploading all of my 3 files one by one. Firstly, I'm going to upload employee table, and I did not do something else, like did not change something in their setting. Now I'm uploading my second file, which is department, and simply upload it. Now I'm uploading my last file, which is order. As now you can see our 3 files are uploaded. Now if you click on your plus sign in your database and then tables, your tables, all of 3 tables are being created. If in the case you did not get these tables, you simply go to refresh or restart your SQL Server Studio and you can get that. We are discussing about the select statement. The select statement in SQL is a powerful tool for retrieving data for a database. It serves as a foundation for data analysis by allowing you to specify the information that you need. In this select statement, we cover topics like selecting all the data, selecting the specific column, selecting top rows, selecting distinct functions, and using a different kind of aggregated function like count, sum, average, minimum, and max. In this select statement, firstly I'm going to discuss about selecting all the columns that is in our dataset. For this, I'm choosing select and then from our table, and I'm using employee table, and in the select statement I'm using this static sign. So what this static sign do, it select all the data that is in our given table. As you can see, we have total of 7 columns and total of 20 rows that is in our employee table, and we get this by using the static sign in select statement. Nextly, I'm going to discuss about selecting specific columns in our table, and for this I'm choosing select statement, and firstly I'm going to select our table name. In the from statement I'm using employee table, and in the select statement I wanted to select specific column as employee ID, first name, last name, and now I'm selecting all of these statements, and you can see we could get our specific result based on these columns. So when we have to select the specific column, so we have to use this comma between one column and the another column. So by this way we can get the specific columns that we need in our given table. Nextly, I'm going to discuss about selecting the top rows. These top rows either be top 5, top 10, top 20, whatever what you want. So I choose the select statement and from our employee table, and in the select statement I am going to select the some specific columns that is in our employee table, that either be first name, department, ID. And for selecting top rows in the select statement I'm using top 5. So what we get the result is that we get the top 5 rows that is in our given table based on the specific column of first name and department ID. You can change this top either to be a 20, top 100, or base is depend upon your requirements. Nextly, and now this time when you use all of the data by using static sign that is in our table, so we can also use this top statement there. For there, if you use top 5 and then static, then you get the top 5 rows based on all of your data that is in your column, that is in your table. And now I'm discussing about distinct function. So the distinct function can select the unique values that is in our specific criteria. I'm using select and then from our table of employee, and I'm choosing distinct function, and I wanted to choose the unique names in our column of first name. So for this I'm going to choose, when I execute this result, I'm get this all of the unique name that is in our column first name. You can also use this distinct function in terms of selecting all of the data that is in our table. For example, instead of this first name, you can use the static sign that represent all the data that is in our table, and you can get the unique values, unique rows and columns that is in our data. So what this distinct function do is give us the unique values that is in our data. Now I'm going to discuss about the count function. And this count function is basically included into aggregated function. And aggregated function, we have sum, average, minimum, maximum, and much more other functions. So firstly, I'm choosing select and then from over table, which is employee. And in the select statement, I choose count of all the data that is in our employee table, and you can get this. So this count function give the result based on number of rows, and we have 20 rows in our employee table, so this function count can give us these 20 rows. Now if you wanted to count based on some specific columns, so you can use this specific column in the count function. And now I am choosing employee ID, and when I execute this query I get the 20 because we have 20 rows in our employee ID column. And you can also use a combination of count and distinct function together. So what this count and distinct function can do, as you know, the distinct function can give the unique values that is in our column or in our data. So what this function in this situation, what this distinct function can do, this distinct function and count function counts the unique rows that is in our tape, that is in our column employee ID. Now I'm moving toward the other aggregated functions. I'm using select statement, and this time firstly I will select the columns that is in our dataset. I will explain it to you later, just a little thing. Now I wanted to select the income per month from our table of employee. Now you can see when I'm selecting something in my select statement, I did not get any kind of suggestions. Like I did not get suggestions on my column name, because I selected my from statement after my select statement. And now I wanted to get the maximum of my income per month, and you can see I use aggregated function of max max, which represents maximum, so I get the maximum value of income per month column. Now as you can see, I go select and then I select from over table employee, and now when I write some words on my column that is in employee table, I get the suggestion. The reason behind this that I select my table name, so that is the reason I get these suggestions. Now I get the minimum value by using aggregated function of mi and min. Now I'm moving toward the average value of income per month. I'm choosing the column of income per month and then aggregated function of AVG, which represent average. And when I execute this query, I get the average of income per month. As you can see, now I'm moving toward the sum of income per month, like what is the total addition of this income per month values. So for this I'm using aggregated function sum, and when I execute this query I get the total sum of values in the column income per month. As now you can see in all of these four results of aggregated function of min, max and average and sum function, that we get the result, but we have here no column name in all of these four values. So here comes the importance of alias like as. So we can rename it with some other specific name of the columns. So I'm going to select alias as as and then max income. And when I execute this query, I get my result. But before that, I'm giving the name of all the other columns that we are created now. As now you can see we have a maximum income and minimum income because we use alias of renaming our column, because these are the columns that are created by ourselves. So we have to rename it. We can either use the alias as, or we can either give just the space and then the name that we wanted to use, as in the case of average income. I did not use as alias. I just write the space and then average income. And now I just wanted to give you an example of this alias. As I use the space between our column name of sum and income, so we get this result that this is a error in our dataset because these space value can't be identified in SQL. So we have to either use underscore, or either we did not have to space between our two of the characters. Now when I execute my all of these four aggregated function, you can get the result along with the names that we specify with them. We have to specify the name of these aggregated function. The reason behind this is that these are the columns that we generate by ourselves. These are not the columns that is in our table, so we have to rename all of these columns. Now I'm going to discuss about the error which only occur when we are working on SQL. Like now I select all the data from my table employee. When I select my all the data, we can get our table in which all the data is being accessed. Because in our database we have a name of our database in which we are working with the SQL practice files. But now in the case in our database name, it is not written over the name of the database in which we are working. And you can see when I select all the data from my employee table, I get the error. The reason behind this is that in our database, our exact database in which we are working is not selected. So to solve this problem, we have a two solution. Either we use firstly our database name, like our database name is a SQL practice file in which we are currently working, and then we can write the full table name. I'm using dot and then our DBO dot employee, which is our full table name. And when now we execute this query, we can get the same result. So as you can see, because our database is different, so we are getting this error. So either we can use this firstly writing our full database name and then our full table name. This is one solution, and either we can use a second solution with selecting our exact database in which we are working. As now I select the SQL practice file, and when I execute my query, I get the result as I wanted, because we have selected our database in which we are currently working and which is SQL practice files. So you can easily handle with this error when you occur. The where class in SQL helps you to get exactly the data that you want by selecting specific condition, and it enables you to refine your analysis to focus only on the data that meets specific criteria. Where statement is like using the filter in our different kind of tables and data sets. In the where statement, we discuss different kind of topics like specific columns with condition, specific singular conditions in multiple column, specific multiple conditions singular column, a different kind of textual search like by using a like statement. Now we are discussing about the where statement. So in the where statement, firstly I'm going to discuss about the equal to sign and not equal to sign. This where statement is same as like filters. So now start our equal to statement. Firstly I'm going to select, and then from our table I'm using my employee table, and in the select statement I'm using static, like I wanted to select all the data, and now I'm using my where statement. In this where statement I wanted to filter my data based on gender, where gender is only equal to M. Like gender is male. When I execute my query, I get the result based on only male gender. Now you can see there we did not have any females in our dataset. The same way, if we wanted to use any other filter based on some specific condition, you can just write their column name and specific condition that you wanted to choose, and you can easily do that. Now I'm just copy pasting my above code, and I'm using the filter of income per month. This time I wanted to give you example in the numeric term. So I wanted to choose my data only when income per month is 65,000. Now there you can see there is only one row that has 65,000 value. When you are dealing with numerical data, you do not need to use the sign between their words, but one between their characters. But when you're dealing with the alphabet data, so you have to use the signs of astrophon. I don't know what is exactly its name. So you have to use when dealing with alphabets. Now I'm giving you example of a not equal to sign, and this time I'm using not equal to with the male, and when you wanted to get your result is not equal to, then you have to use this less than and equal to sign. Now you can see we only have a female in our dataset because we get the condition in our code that our gender is not equal to male, and in our dataset we only have a two gender and male and female. If our gender is not equal to male, so then our gender is equal to female. So we get the result according to our code. Nextly, I'm discussing about greater than and less than sign in using the where statement. Firstly, I'm writing the same above code of employee table and selecting all the data, and this time I wanted to choose income per month, and I wanted to get my data in which income per month is greater than 65,000. So we have to use in that way, And now you can see we get all of the data that has greater income per month is greater than 65,000. Same in that way, we can get the result where income per month is less than, I'm choosing 95,000. So when we execute our query, we get the result of income where income per month is less than 95,000. Now I'm just using this equal to sign with the less than or greater than value, and I'm choosing the last one of less than sign and equal to, and I wanted to choose my value as our value of income per month is less than equal to 50,000. Like what it means that our value of income per month is less than 50,000 and also equal to 50,000. When you wanted to equal to sign between this statement, so you have to use the equal to sign on the right side of less than and equal to statement. Now I just copy and paste my above statement, and I'm also adding one more statement which is a between and one. Like when you wanted to see our data based on certain point to another certain point. Like now in this statement, I wanted to soon see my values between 60,000 to 70,000. So you have to use this between statement and write the end between two of the numerical values. And now you can see that we can get our result based on income per month is where income per month is between 60,000 to 70,000. Now we're going to discuss about condition in different columns. So when we are applying the condition in two different columns, I'm using my select statement and selecting all of the data, then from our employee table, and then in the where statement, I'm using for my first condition as gender, where gender is equal to female, and I also wanted to choose another column, so I use the and statement and then another condition for another column, which is income per month is equal to 50,000. So now I use the two conditions that are belong to two different columns, so I separated them by using and statement. Now when you execute your query, you get this result. Just for the sake of more result, I'm using this income per month is less than equal to 50,000. And now you can see we can get more results because we use our statement less than equal to in our one condition. So now if you wanted to use the two condition for two different tables, then you can separate it by using and statement. If you wanted to add more condition that are belong to different some third column or fourth column, you just simply have to add this and then you have to write the another condition from another column. Now I'm just copying my above condition and using the one more condition which is a or. The and condition is one of the useful. You did not use or condition much more, but just for clarity I'm using this or condition. So what this or condition can do, that either if your gender is a female, then we get our data, or either your income per month is less than equal to 50,000. Either one of the condition is being fulfilled, then we can get the result in our table. Now I'm moving toward the multiple conditions in the same column. So for this, I'm selecting all of my data, and then from our employee table, and then in the where condition, I'm using first name and generally when we are selecting the data, we can use this equal to sign, but this equal to sign is very useful when you're dealing with only one condition in a single column. But now this time I'm using two conditions, like I wanted to see the two names, which is Emma and Ava. So for this, when we execute our query using to equal to sign, we get an error. So this time we should use the another thing, which is a in. When you use the instead of equal to sign, when you're dealing with more than one condition in a single column, so we can get our result. Now when we execute our query, you can see that we can get the values in which our first name is Emma and Ava. Now I just wanted to same thing. If you wanted to add more names like third name and the fourth name in the single column, you can easily do that, as like you write your first two name by easily writing this comma and then another first name. You can easily write that. Now I am going toward the numerical columns, which now this time we're using income per month, and I wanted to select the two values. The first one was 65,000 and next one was 95,000, and I used the in before writing the numerical letters, as we discussed in our alphabet area. Now you can see we get the result in which income per month is either be 65,000 and either be 95,000. The same thing we discussed earlier. When dealing with alphabet, you need to write the astrophone sign between a start and the end of your alphabet, but when you're dealing with numerical data, you do not need to write this. Now I'm going to discuss about like statement. This like statement is very helpful when you're dealing with the alphabet data. I am using my first name and I'm using this like statement, and then I wanted to see the letter E in my first names, so I use this percentage sign between the start and the end of this E. So now when we execute our query, you can see we get the result in which in the first name column, either this E is at the mid of the letter, or either this E is at the start of the first name of the person. So now when we use this percentage sign between the start and the end, and we write something between these percentage signs, so we can get the same result, either be in the start of our column, either be in the end of the column, either be in the middle of our column. Now I'm just copy and pasting the above query, and I'm just removing the one percentage sign, and now you can see we can get the result where E is at the start of the letter. E is at the start of the first name. So when we use our percentage sign at the end, so it means that this letter is from the first at the start of the letter. Now as you can see, if we use this E at the start of if we use a percentage sign at the start of our letter, so it means that this E is at the end of the our condition. Like we choose the first name where the E is at the end, but we did not have any kind of the result in which E is the last letter of any first name, so we get the result as a null value. So in our above condition, which we choose this E as to be as the first letter, so we can get the result of a two first names. So now you can understand the slide statement in the better sense. Like when you're using this some alphabets between starting and the between, in which you can write the percentage sign at the start and at the end, so you can get the results. Either be this alphabet is lying in the first as a first name, as a first character of the condition, either be at the second character, either be in the middle, or either be at the end. But when you're using this E sign at the end, so you can with this percentage sign of any kind of alphabet at the end, then you can get these alphabet at the first character of your condition. And when you're using this percentage sign at the start, then you can get the results of the end of any kind of alphabet. The group by class in SQL facilitate grouping of data based on specific condition, allowing for the aggregation of information. It plays a crucial role in summarizing and analyzing data in a more structured manner. Now I'm going to discuss about the group by statement in SQL. This group by statement is very useful because we group our data based on certain column. So I'm choosing select, and then from our table I'm choosing employee table, and in the select statement I am going to choose department, but I think we should choose a gender because gender is a great option. So I'm choosing gender, and then I'm choosing count of a gender as like how many genders are in our employee table, and I'm giving it a name as a gender count. And now I'm using the group by statement, and I'm wanted to group our data based on gender. So what this query can does, it can get the result based on the genders. But like we have two genders in our table, which is a male and female, so we get the result based on males and female category. Now you can see we have a total of 7 females, a total of 13 males. That is in our employee table. Because we use this group by statement as a gender, so it helps us to grouping our data based on the gender column. Now we execute without this group by statement. You can see we can get the result that this is not a valid thing, invalid, because gender is not in the order by or group by statement. So this group by statement is very useful in SQL. Now I'm just adding you one more thing, like the average of income per month in the same query as I added above. So, and I'm giving it a name to be as average income. Now when we execute our query, we can get the average income of a male and female in our gender column, because we use gender in our group by statement. So we get the result based on the columns, based on the values that is in our gender column. And in our gender column we have two values, like two categories, either be male and female, so we get the result based on that. Order by class in SQL arranges query result in ascending and descending order based on specific columns. It adds a level of organization to your data presentation, making it easier to analyze and interpret. Now I'm going to discuss about order by statement in SQL. This order by statement is same like ordering our data, either be in the descending order or either be in ascending order. So I am choosing select, and then from our employee table In the select statement, I wanted to select the column of gender, and I'm going to select income per month. Now I'm using this order by statement, and I wanted to see the order based on our numerical column, which is income per month. When I select, I'm also adding the descending order, like DESC, short form of descending order. So now when you execute our query, we can get the result based on gender and income per month in the form of highest income per month to lowest income per month. By default, if you choose the income order by state in our order by statement, it is ascending order, but we wanted to see our result in descending order from highest to lowest, so we have to write the DESC as a short form of descending order. Now I also add the one more column, which is employee ID, in our this query. So if you wanted to choose more things, more columns in your data, you can easily get that. Now I'm just copying and pasting my above query, and when we execute over this query without the JC, as the same thing I discussed earlier, we can get our result in the form of ascending order, because by default this order by statement is set into ascending order, like from lowest to highest. So we can get this result. Either we can use this ASC ascending order, or either we did not write anything by in the above line of our column name in the order by statement, we can get the same result in both the condition. Now I'm selecting the query which we use in our group by statement, and in this query we choose the gender and the count of the gender and the average of income per month, and I'm going to add the order by statement in this query, and I wanted to order my data based on average income, and I wanted to choose it from order of descending order, like from highest order to lowest order. Now you can see when we execute our query, we can get the gender and like how many genders, the count of a gender, and then the average income. And this average income, this result is based on from highest average income to lowest average income. Now I'm just giving you one example of a having class. Generally, we did not use much more this having class in our SQL, but I just wanted to give you one example. So I'm going to select and then from my employee table, and in the select statement I wanted to see my first name and also the average of income per month. So I give it as a name of average income, and we need to group our data based on first name. And now what we have to do is that if we wanted to see the result based on this aggregated function that you created, like in this our case it's been an average of income per month, so you need to use this having clause. Generally when you wanted to see a filter, you can use in a where statement, but if you write these statement in the where statement, it's not working. The reason behind this, when in the where statement your conditions work if you are using the filter based on the columns that is already existed in your data. But if you wanted to see your result based on aggregated functions, then you need the having clause in your query. As now you can see, when we execute our query, you can get this kind of results. But if you write the same statement of this having into our where statement, as you can see, we have to write this where statement before group by statement, and And when we execute our query without this having class, you can see we can get an error result because there is no having clause in it. So now you can understand my point more clearly, that if you wanted to filter your data based on the column that is already exists in your database, so you can filter these based using in the where statement. But you wanted to filter the data based on the aggregated function that you created in your tables, like the average, mean, median, mod, and sum, and for all these aggregated functions, then you can need to write the having clause in your query. Now we're going to discuss about the joins. So basically the join in SQL are used to combine the rows from two or more than two tables based on the primary key based on the primary table which is being exist among all of these tables. The main purpose of this join is to make a single result by using the combination of different kind of tables. So the topic that we're going to discuss in this join statement is inner join, full outer join, left join, right join, and selecting a different kind of different columns in your join statement, and then using the filtering, group by, order by, and different kind of aggregated function in this join statement. Now we're going to discussing the joins in SQL. So basically in joins have four types in SQL. First one was inner join, full outer join, left join, and right join. So firstly I'm going to discuss about the inner join. So in the inner join, I'm choosing all of the data in my select statement and then from my employee table, and then I'm using this inner join and I wanted to join it into another table which is an order table. But and there's one more thing, I'm using this on statement and selecting the primary key which is existed in both of our tables of employee table and order table. And you know that employee ID is the one of the primary key that is existed in our employee and order both tables, so I'm using this in my on statement. But as now you can see that is mean showing error in our order statement. Now when I execute, you can see there is an error just because SQL is not detecting that this order is our ordered table that is in our database. So we have to use these bracket inside this order. You can either use the full database name and then full table name as we use in our error statement as I discussed earlier, but now it can be worked if we use these brackets inside our table name. So I'm using the brackets as my table name and it's been working. Now when I execute a query, then you can see I get all of my results that is in my both of the table based on this employee ID. And as now you can see we have total of 22 rows that is in over this new results. But instead of using it by firstly discussing by two tables and then by three tables, I'm directly moving toward the three tables together. Now I wanted to add one more table that is an over table that is our database, which is a department table. And department table and employee table, we have a primary key which is a department ID. So I'm going to select it in my on statement. Now when I execute my query, you can see we can get the results. So we have 22 rows in our this result. the basically inner join can do, it can select all of the data that is existing in all of the tables that we selected, but based on this primary key. As you can see, our primary key is employee ID in our employee and order statement, and department ID in the department and employee statement. So we can get the 22 rows, and these 22 rows are in the sense, as you know, we have 20 rows in our department and employee ID, and we have 24 rows in our order ID, but in 24 rows in our order ID, we have 2 rows are duplicate and 2 rows are null values. And when we are selecting our data on this order employee ID base, and these 2 rows are null values in the employee ID in the order statement, so that is the reason we get the 22 rows instead of 24 rows. Now you either can use the inner join or you either can use the join. They both have the same meanings, yet we can get the same result by using both, either be the join or either be the inner join statement. As now you can see, now I'm moving toward the full outer join. So full outer join is the join which can select all of the data that is in our selected tables. It is all the data, either be the duplicate value, null values, or either be anything, but this all data can be accessed in all of the tables that are used in our outer join statement. As now you can see, when I change my inner join or join into full outer join and I execute my query, you can see we can get 24 rows, because full outer join can select all of the data, so we can also get the null values that are existed in our some columns result on these joining. So now you can understand the difference of outer join and inner join. Outer join can select all of the data that is in our selected columns, either be null value, duplicate value, everything. And inner join can select all of the data, but based on these primary keys that we can exist in our tables, but it cannot be included the null values that is in our data. So nextly I'm moving toward the right or left join. So left join, I'm just copying my above query and adding the left join statement in all of my tables. So in left join statement, what is happened that data is being selected based on all of the left join of the primary key. Primary key is important thing. So in the left join, based on this primary key, all of the data is selected from the left table, and from the right table we can only get the result based on this primary key that is matching. So our first table is always included to be a left join. So in this case, employee ID is considered to be a left join when you are dealing with employee ID and order, and when you are dealing with the employee ID and order, and then we have a department ID is also added. So department ID is become right join, and the above result from our employee ID and order ID become the our left join, our left table. As now you can see, we can get the 22 rows based on the result of our employee ID. Nextly, I'm going to discuss about the right join statement. So I'm just copying my statement and adding the right join in it. So now in this right join statement, our first table is considered to be a right join, and in this case employee is the first, is a right table. So when we execute over this query, we can get 22 rows that is in our table. So it also works as the same way as we have done in our left join. So what it can do, that based on the primary key, it can select all the data from our right join, and on this primary key it can select some matching data that is being existed on our left table, on our left, by using this right join. So now I think that you can understand about these left, right, inner and outer join. So now as now you can see, if we consider our right join our order table and other tables are left join, now we can see we can all get the same result based on this primary key that is being existed in our in our three of tables. So now I'm moving toward selecting some specific columns in our join statement. And also I'll discuss about the group by, order by and filters statement in the join class. So now I'm just copying my first query of joins, of inner joins, and I wanted to add some specific data. Like I wanted to choose the first name for my employee table, and then income per month also from employee table, and department name for my department table, order amount from my order table, and I wanted to select this department ID, but now you can see you are getting the error. I will show you when I execute this query. We can get the error. The reason behind this that this department ID is existed in our two tables, which are employee and department table. So we have to identify that which table we wanted to execute. We wanted to write this department ID. I wanted to select this from our department table. So I'm firstly writing my table name and then the column name. So if you can also select if there are more than one column name is appearing more than one time, so you have to select that which table you wanted to execute this query. And now if we select our data, we can see our results. Now I'm moving toward the group by statements. So in our select statement, I wanted to choose the department name and order amount, and I wanted to see the average of order amount, and I wanted to give it a name as an average amount. As you know that in our employee ID and order we have a common primary key which is an employee ID, and in our department ID and employee ID we have a common key which is a department ID. So we need to use all of three tables because they are interchangeably connected to each other. Because employee ID is connected to order table, employee table is connected to order table, and then order table is connected to department table. And now I also added the group by statement, and I wanted to group my data based on department name, and I wanted to see order of my data based on average amount, and I wanted to see it in the form of descending order, like from highest value to lowest value. And now you can see quality insurance has highest, and then finance, and then marketing, and then sales has highest values. Now I'm just copying my above statement and I make a little bit changes into it, like I didn't want it to write everything again. So this time in the department name, and I wanted to see the income per month, and I wanted to see the average of income per month, and I wanted to give it as a name as average income. As now we have two tables, that two columns that are being included in our select statement. One is the department name, which is selected from department table. Another is the income per month, which is selected from employee table. So we need to use two tables, employee and department. So this time we remove this order table, and in our order by clause, instead of average amount, I'm using average income. And this time I also wanted to choose a filter where gender is equal to female. When I execute my query, you can see this result based on where gender is equal to female, our average income into descending order based on department name. But if you also wanted to see in our result with the department name and average income, you also wanted to include gender, so you have to include this gender in our select statement and also in the group by statement. Now this is all for the join statement. Now we're going to discuss about identifying and deleting the null values that is in our column. So basically the null values are the values that has no value in our column. To identify our null value, we use the null condition, and to delete these null value, we use the delete statement in our table. Identifying and deleting the null values that is in our table, and is one of the important thing that you encounter when you're using SQL. So firstly, I'm going to identifying null values that is in our table. So for this, I'm using the select statement. Then I'm using the static sign that represent all of the data that is in our table, and I'm using from statement, and I'm selecting my table as a order. As we discussed earlier about using of this bracket sign, because it is not detecting that it is a table. Now I'm using this where statement, and in this where statement, as you can see in our order table columns, we have 4 columns. So I am using my first name of a column, which is order ID, and I'm also using is null, and then I'm using or statement and writing the second name of a column, which is employee ID, and then using is null, and I'm choosing the third column name, which is order ID, as the same way I choose the last name, which is order amount. So what this where statement can do is can define that either in any of the columns, if we have null values, we can get the result. And in the select statement, I use a static sign. If you wanted to see the result based on some specific columns, like now in our employee table, we have a 4 column, but you wanted to see the result based on 3 columns or 2 columns, you can easily add that. So now you can see we can get the result in which there is a null value is in our all of the data that we select in the select statement, and by using the where statement, we can get the null values. So now here comes the deleting of these null values. So for deleting the null values, I'm just copying the from and the where statement from my above code, as you can see, because it can get the null values that is in our order table, and I'm using this delete statement before the from statement. So what this delete statement can do, it can delete the null values that either be belonging into all of the columns that are written in the where statement. So when we execute our query, you can see we get the result. The two rows are affected, as when you're dealing identifying with the null value, you can see that we have two rows in which there are null values are belonging. So in this case, these two rows are deleted by using delete statement. Now we're going to discuss about identifying and deleting the duplicate value. So basically, these duplicate values are the values that appear more than once in a column but having the same data. So to identify a duplicate value, we use the combination of group by and having class, and to delete these duplicate value, we use delete and row number statement. So in the identifying and deleting the duplicate values that is in our table, firstly, I am moving toward identifying the duplicate values in our data set, and then after that, I move toward deleting these duplicate values. So for this, I'm writing my select and then from. But before in the select statement, I just wanted to select all of my data and also count of all of my data in my table. But it seems that it is error. But firstly, we define our from statement. So from this for statement, I'm using this order table that is in our database. So instead of selecting all the data by using static sign, I'm just writing the each column name one by one. So in our order table, we have order ID, employee ID, order date, and order amount. So for this, I have selected all the data, all the columns that is in my order table. Now I want to see the count of all of these data that is in my table. And nextly, I wanted to group my whole of this statement based on my these columns that is in my order table. And lastly, for identifying the duplicate values, I am going to select my having clause, and in this having clause, I just wanted to see the count of all of the data that appears more than once. So for this, we can select all of the data that is in all of the rows that is in our order table that appears more than once time by using this having statement or all the group by statement. Now you can see the rows in which employee ID is 1006 and 1011. It appears two times. You can see in no column name, which is a count of all the data. It have shows that is been appearing two times. These two rows are appearing two times. So these are the duplicate values that is in our order table. So now we are moving toward deleting these duplicate values. So for deleting these duplicate values, firstly I'm going to select, and I wanted to select all of my column names that is in my order table. And now I am using the function of row number, and I wanted to see my result over And in this, after the over statement, I am using partition by, and all of my column names that is in my order table. And nextly, I use the order by statement by selecting nulls, and then I wanted to give it a name as a row number, and I choose nextly my table name because we are working on our order table, so I choose order in my form. And nextly, I wanted to give this whole condition that I write in select and from a name. So because this is a CTE methods, so I write it to be as a with duplicate CTE and as. Like I wanted to give whole this condition a name which is a duplicate CTE. And nextly, it's comes time to delete these duplicate values. So in this above statement of select that we given the name of a row number, now we're going to delete the duplicate values. So I'm deleting this duplicate CTE which I save and work on the select and from statement. And in where statement, I'm choosing the above row number that I given. In my select statement, now you can see we have two rows affected which are duplicate value. So thus in the select statement that we choose our column names and we have a row number and we given this partition by. So what this partition can do, it can select all of the duplicate values that is in our table. So in delete statement we can delete all of these duplicate. Discuss about date time function. So in datetime function, we will discuss about how we extract the year, month and day in our date column and how we extract the age. And for extracting the age from our date of birth column, we use the datatype function. Now we're going to discuss about extracting the year, month and day from any of the date column. And I'm using the order date that are belonging to our order table. I'm choosing select statement and then from our order table and in our select statement I'm going to select I'm choosing order date and I'm using year and then our order date and I'm giving it a name as year. Same for our month, I'm using the month and then our order date which is our date column and then I'm giving it a name to be as a month. And in last I'm going to date and then our order date and giving it to a name of a day. So what it can do, it can extract the year from our order date and the month from our order date and the day from our order date column. But for this, the one more important thing, your order date column should be in the date format. Now we are dealing with our order date column in our order table. So our order date table is already in the date format. But if in the case you are dealing with some data in which your order date is not in the order date format, so first you can use try cast function and convert into a date time function and then you deal with it and extract the year, month and day in it. Now as I can add the employee ID in our select statement, if you wanted to add some other columns in your statement, you can easily do that. Now I'm going to discuss about extracting the age from our date of birth, which are also a very helpful function in SQL. So I'm choosing select and then from our employee table, and this time I'm choosing date of birth from our employee table. So I'm choosing this dated if function and then writing the year, and then our date of birth column, which is a DOB, and then get date and then giving it to a name as a age. So what it can do is that the get date can represent the current age, current date, like it with this dated if function can extract the date. This dated function can extract the age based on the date of birth column and also about the today's date by using this get date function. So now you can see we can get the age based on our date of birth and our current age. Now we're going to discuss about case statement. So basically the case statement is same as like if else statement, like if our one condition is fulfilled then we can get this result, and if our another condition is fulfilled then we can get this results. So let's start our case statement. Now we are going to discuss about the case statements in SQL. So for this I'm going to select the select and then from our employee table, and I'm choosing gender for this case statement, and I'm using it to be gender is equal to case, and now I'm defining my case when our gender is M. As you know, in our data we have a F and M, which is the first character of a male and female, and I'm choosing this as when our gender is equal to F then we got the female, and when our gender is equal to M then we can get the female. And else the gender. Now just giving it this else statement just for your clarity when dealing with the data. There is a more genders, like in our table, like in our column we only have a two gender, is a male and female, but if you are dealing with the data in which there is a more gender, so you can consider it to be as a gender. Like this else statement can get the other name of the gender which is written in already in our column name. And now I am closing this case statement by using N. When I execute my query, you can see we can get the result either as to be a male and female because we specify it in our case statement. Now if you wanted to add more columns in your data, like you either we wanted to add more statements that is in your query, either to be a group by and order by statement, whatever what you want, but I'm just giving you as an example of selecting the different columns in your select statement. As now you can see when we execute your query, we can get the result of employee ID and gender is a male or female because we specify in our case statement. So this case statement is as like when you wanted to specify the certain condition with representation of other certain conditions. So this case statement is very helpful. Now I'm just giving you a one more example of this case statement, and this time I'm writing my select and then from our employee table, and I'm going to use the income per month column that is in our employee table, and I'm using the case statement as income per month is equal to case, and I'm using when our income per month is between I want you to choose this between statement from 30,000 to 60,000, because in our data of our income per month we have a 30 something is the lowest value in our column and 92 is highest value that is in our income per month column. So I'm giving it the start of a 30,000 and then end of a 60,000, and when our numerical data is between 30,000 to 60,000 in our income per month, then you can get the result of low. And I'm writing the next statement in which our income per month is between 61,000 to it's probably be, I think we can give the gap of 2020 in first two statements, like 30,000 gap is good one. And when our income per month is between 61,000 to 90,000, then we can get the result of average. And now I'm writing my third statement in which our result is 91,000 to 1,20,000, then we can get the result of high. So I divided my income per month into three categories, which is low, average and high. So I'm also adding this else statements, like if there is some other values that is above 1,20,000 or below 30,000, so you can get these values. So I'm writing this else statement into income per month and I'm closing my this case statement by n. And now when we execute our query, we can get an error. The reason behind this error is that our income per month is a numerical column and we wanted to give it the name of average, low and high, which is alphabet or a string column. So here comes the value of a try cast, which is used for changing the data type of one column to another, one data type into another data type. And I wanted to change my income per month data type into var chart. So now when we execute our query, we can get the average, low and high values result. Now the same, if you wanted to add the other statements, other column names in your select statement, you can easily do that. So this is all about the case statement in SQL. Now in this section we not only discuss about the case statement, we also discuss about the try cast function, which is very helpful for changing the data types. Now you also use this try cast function if you wanted to change the data type of some another column when you're doing some other calculation or something else. Now we're going to discuss about combining and splitting of different columns. So for the combining of different columns, we use the concat function, and for splitting a different kind of column, we use the statement or clause like right and left to extract data from left side of the column or right side of the column. So now we're going to discuss about combining of two columns. And for this, I'm combining the first name and the last name and make it to be a full name. For this, I am going to select and then from our employee table, and in the select statement I'm using concat function. I'm writing the first column which I wanted to combine, which is first name, and then I'm using a space between single quotes and then I'm using my second column name, which is a last name, and now I wanted to give it a name as a full name. So what this concat function can do, it can combine both of the columns with the delimiter of a space. Now when I execute our query, you can see our full result, which is a full name, which is a combination of first name and last name. Now if you wanted to add more column names into your select statement, you can easily do that. Like now I'm writing employee ID and date of birth. And now I'm going to discuss about splitting of columns in a data. For this, I'm going to select and then from I'm choosing my employee table, and then in the select statement I wanted to split the employee ID into the two parts. So for this, firstly I'm choosing the left function, and what this left function can do, it can select the left two datas, which either be numerical, in our case it is a numerical data, and it gives us the result. And now I'm going to write the right function, and I wanted to choose the right two values that is in our employee ID column, and I'm giving both of left two values and right two values a name, which is a usual code and employee. So now when we execute our query, we get two different tables for a single table of employee ID. The one was a left and second was a right two values. Now wanted to add more columns in your select statement, you can easily do that. Now when you execute a query, I get employee ID, date of birth, usual code that we created, and employee ID. And our employee ID is splitting into two columns, which is a usual code employee ID by left and right function. And lastly, we are going to discuss about update statement. So in update statement, we have two conditions. One is updating the data in existing column, and one is updating a data by creating a new column. So for updating a data in existing column, we use update and set clause, and for updating a data in a new column, we can by creating a new column we can use a statement of alter table and then add. So let's start our updates. Now we're moving toward discussing about updating data, and I'm going to firstly discuss about updating data in existing column. So for this we have to write the update clause and then our table, and I'm using the employee table. And then we have to add the set clause, and I am using the same statement of this gender as we use in our case statement. Like in our data, gender is saved to be as a F and M, and we wanted to save it to be a female and male, so I'm using this case statement as we use early and wanted to update this. So when we execute over this query, our result in our gender column is saved to be as a female and as a male. As now you can see 20 rows are affected, we get this result. So this is the case when you are dealing with updating the data in your existing column, that the column that is already existed. And in our case, gender is a column that is already existed. We just need to change the values that is under the gender column. And now I'm moving toward updating the data by creating a new column. So for this, I'm choosing the clause of alter table, and in the table in which we wanted to add one more column. And I'm going toward the adding the column in our employee table. So I write the employee table name, and now I'm using this concat function that we use in our combining of two columns statement, in which we can combine our first name and the last name by using a concat function, and I add this in our employee table as a new table. As now you can see commands completed successfully. So that now we can create a new column in our employee table by updating it, which is this new column is a full name. Now we're going to see our final result that we have created in our update statement, either by creating it in existing table or creating in a new table, creating in a new column in a table. Now I'm using select and then from statement. Now you can see we can get the full name of with the combination of first name and second name, and we also see the gender as to be a male and female, either to be a F and M. So now we successfully updated our update statement. We successfully update our columns by using the update statement. This is all from our SQL course for data analysis, in which we discuss different kind of concepts, and I think that you understand all of these concepts very clearly. But if you have any doubt, you can just comment me. I will happy to assist you. Thank you.